Okay, well, thankfully Lee remembered that I said we were doing chairs today, because I totally forgot. But before we get into the chairs, let's hear if there are insights, recognitions, complaints.
Just the 2 times I tremor, my body's remembering very quickly, so I'm going to do very little.
Yeah.
So I'm just kind of confirming that's my experience this week.
Good.
Just a little
Okay.
butterfly bridge, and it's like knows what to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's nice.
And so it makes sense, like when you find that it's not a 20-minute commitment.
No,
So it can just happen really quickly.
spontaneously, it just starts. I got the caption. It's like not consciously like, oh, you said it's right this time. I just felt the urge.
Yeah. So it's almost like it becomes like drinking water, you know.
There you go.
Yeah.
Or you have to pee.
Or you have to pee, right? You have. That's a good way. Yeah, exactly. Gotta pee, so you gotta pee. That's all. And it is like that. It's a reflex. Well, peeing is more than a reflex. What else? Anything else?
I'm kind of drawn to big tremors right now. I'm patient with little tremoring. If it feels like it's holding me back, not forever necessarily. It's not like a big decision, but right now, tremors. Like right now, my hip hurts. I'm just gonna like keep my leg out of the socket, which probably is against the rules, but that's what I want to do. Like little tremors. It's just not. I know I've really benefited by bringing my tremoring in over these years. I get it. Right now, it just makes me like feel.
Yeah. And you know, whether we tremor big or small is like that same thing that I think we talked about last week, that you can use a tremor for something physical. You can use a tremor specifically for nervous system. You can use the tremor to fall asleep, which kind of falls under nervous system, but maybe not, because maybe your nervous system feels overcharged and you do need to I'd say if your nervous system feels overcharged, you need to really listen to what the effect of the tremoring is before you decide whether it has to be big or small. Sleep, to go to sleep, usually we want something kind of gentle, like if you were thinking if you were gonna rock a baby to sleep, it wouldn't be like, it'd be like, so that may be helpful unless you feel there's a big charge which is keeping you awake. And you know, sometimes where there is a physical thing, it does feel like we need to have a big tremor. And sometimes it feels like drawing the tremors in very close to the bones is more beneficial. So, you know, it's like, you know, you've heard this comparison before, metaphor before. It's like pasta is just pasta, but when it's in different shapes, it tastes different, doesn't it? Like it's incredible that spaghetti is so different from tubatini, those little tubatinis. So different, but it's still the same flour and water. And some of it goes better with certain kind of sauces. Sometimes you're desiring one over the other, right? So you can think of your tremoring can be as varied as Barilla's aisle in ShopRite. You're like, what do I choose? But here whatever it is that you're in the mood for. But just what the reason I'm saying this is to recognize that the tremors can be as varied as pasta shapes.
I was in the Trader Joe's pasta aisle today, and I had penne in my hand, and I put it back, and I took the fusilli because that's what I felt. I felt like human fusilli. That's what I thought. 5 hours ago. There you
There you go.
I feel like I have varying experiences with my tremors this week. Like Friday after last week, I had like a whole body almost tremor, and then as the week went on, I feel like they got smaller, more localized to my legs. And with the last one, I was like, I feel like I'm not even like shaking a bit, but so I didn't know if that was just like momentum slowing down or yeah.
do you have a sense of how the different tremors affected you afterwards?
I mean, the really like big one, I felt super calm afterwards and really grounded. And I still felt grounded with the last two ones, but it didn't have like that all clearing mind effect
Mhm.
usually that I get. It was like, still have little pesky like running thoughts. So it
Mhm.
almost felt like I don't know, I didn't.
Wasn't
Yeah.
complete.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A little bit.
And how far apart were those? So you were here third
Mhm.
Wednesday, and then you trembled on Friday, and then
And
Wednesday.
then Sunday I trembled again, and that was much smaller. So I was like, I think that we can try again Monday. They usually try to make space on the day in between, but and then Mondays felt even like smaller.
Did you do the exercises?
I didn't, and I'm wondering if maybe I still need to.
Did you do the pelvis lift?
Yeah, that
You
I
did
did.
that. Because we didn't do the exercises on on Wednesday either.
Yeah.
It could be your body's way of self-regulating, because it may be that big tremor felt good, but maybe that's only a once a week tremor.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, like, I mean, I wash my hair once a week. When's the day I'm gonna do it? You know, some people have a schedule, I don't. It's just like, I go, oh, it's time to wash my hair. So it could be that your body was like, okay, we've got a lot to discharge, and then we don't have as much to discharge. Or, did you do it the same time of day?
Yeah, I did them all towards the evening.
Okay.
Like around this time. So.
Yeah, it's interesting, because I have that experience also, like sometimes they're just like, ah, and sometimes they're just like, zzz. And I just think of it as just like the body is regulating itself. So I'm just gonna let it do what it needs to do. And I wouldn't read into it too much more than that. If you had done it different times a day, I'd say, okay, well, that's telling you something, right? Yeah, just keep going and see. And maybe Friday night's your night.
Maybe that's a great night.
Well, you know, Friday's probably the end of your work week, right?
It is, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So that may have something to do with it also. It's like, I can let go now completely and just relax going into the weekend. Or there was a full week of stress built up and I let it go. Yeah, so you'll see if that develops into a pattern. It'll be interesting. Mhm. Anything else?
Yeah, I tremor in the morning and in the evening, but in the morning it varies. Sometimes it's a very gentle tremor and sometimes it's really active and sort of like a soft, like,
Mhm.
let it out. And I
Yeah.
haven't really paid attention to what's going on that day. You know, what am I anticipating?
Hmm.
Perhaps.
You mean in the morning?
Yeah, like,
Mhm.
because it's the beginning of the day that I'm
Right.
doing this, when I'm doing my yoga and stretching. So I'll have to think about what, you know, if there's a connection with the more active and more physically exhausting
Yeah.
tremors and needing that kind of relaxation before I head into it.
Yeah.
But I was traveling last week and, you know, you've always said, oh, well, did you tremor? And talking about certain situations. I'm like, damn, I forgot. That would have been great. But I was flying and there was a lot of turbulence.
Oh.
And I just started gently tremoring and I realized no one noticed, you know, it was just like legs really. And people were probably all in their own fearful worlds about, you know, what was going to happen or whatever. But it was interesting that I was able to do it and it just came, you know, I didn't have to think about it.
Yeah. Mhm.
My body was like, okay, we'll just do a little tremoring.
Yeah.
And it helped.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, time to discharge.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So it's nice to be at that point with it
Yes,
where it knows what to do.
yeah, where it's an automatic
Whatever it is.
response.
Yeah.
It feels, it's like, you know, it feels the tension
Yeah.
increasing in your body and it says, okay, it's time to let some of this out.
Yeah, I've noticed that too, like in meetings or things like that. It's just
Mhm.
like a reaction to as the stress is coming at me, I'm also able to, you know, do a little tremoring.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, we have so many different things, none of which I can think of right now that regulate like that, right? That say like, we need to discharge some of this. Actually, the apartment that we rent in Asbury Park has a stove and it had, the exhaust hood is like the microwave.
Mm.
And if it gets too hot, the exhaust hood, the fan goes on. And I can't shut it off.
Yeah.
And it's really loud and annoying.
Yeah.
And it just, the first time it clicked on, I was like, what the heck is that?
Yeah.
But I also appreciate that it doesn't want the apartment to burn down,
Right.
right? So, I've never seen a self-regulating hood.
Really think that's a thing, but.
I didn't know, but that has to be what it is, because if I
Strange.
have 4 pots going, that's when
It
it
just
turns
goes on.
on,
Wow.
yeah.
That's great.
And then it doesn't go on until, like 3 hours later.
Yeah.
So, our car is doing that, right?
Yeah.
It's the temperature in the car rises, more water circulates through the radiator. So laptops do that, right? I was just sitting outside with my laptop today and said, this is, it's going to a black screen because it has to cool off.
Mhm.
Actually, it was my phone that did that.
Yeah.
And here's something that I didn't know. I'm sure some of you knew this, but your battery life on your phone is worse in the summertime because it's working to cool itself down. Did anybody know
Mhm.
that? And with computers too, if it's hot in your house, the computer, if you're using a battery, the life is gonna drop because the computer is trying to pull itself off. And that goes on, and you're not gonna hear it in the phone, because it's like, I don't know what's happening actually, but you can think about in our own selves that when we're regulating ourselves properly, we are not doing everything, right? Like, summer, and again, in the summer times, and when it's really hot, we just can't do as much. But our mind says, no, you gotta do it, you gotta continue through, you gotta work through it, because your whole, everything is dependent on you getting stressed out, on you overworking, and just do it. And then our body just can't do it. And we don't respect that. Like, we don't have that thing that says, this phone is gonna shut down now. And we don't have that, but we do have what you experience, is that there's a self-regulate, the fan is going on, right, to cool you off.
And apparently we shouldn't charge the batteries to 100%.
Well, I'm not waking up in the middle of the night
I'm
to
just saying,
pull my
I
phone
read
out.
that. But that has like some analogy there, like,
Yeah,
don't do it to the
don't,
max.
yeah, right,
It's
right.
maybe not the best for the batteries, to
Mhm.
just give it.
It really is amazing to me how much technology is imitating the human condition, and I don't know if the designers have really made that connection so much. I'm sure somebody has, but yeah, we're regulating ourselves, or trying to, and we don't listen to it, because we have this here. It says, no, keep going. Anything else? And I've often wondered about the tremoring when we're cold. That I think that's the body trying to warm itself up, right? Because you're moving, right? When you're cold out, you like would move around a lot intentionally, and then your body's going zzz. Okay, anything online? Anything from you guys out there? No? So today I wanted to try to tremor in the chair.
Yay!
Wow, that was really net.
A metal cold hard object.
Well, here you can take a blanket and put it on. You can fold your mat up and put it on. And what's really nice about being in the chair, well, you had the experience on the airplane, you were in a chair. It wasn't like, clear the aisles, I'm laying down. So it can be really practical just from that standpoint, that you don't have to set things up as much, but also being upright has a different energetic alignment for how the energy in a human body flows. And also, you don't have as much weight on your shoulders or on your head. And some people find that they can get some more or some movement in their torso because they're not weighing it down. So, but it's up, you're gonna see. You're gonna see. So what we're gonna do, because it's new, we're gonna stand against the wall. Or you're gonna stand against the wall. I'm just gonna sit here and watch. So you're gonna come into your wall squat. Yeah, take care for the slippage issue. For slippage. Don't slide. Jennifer, take your feet forward a little bit more. Yeah. And we just want to get it a little bit activated. It doesn't have to be crazy, crazy.
The longer I take, the less I have to do.
What's that?
The longer I take to get back.
You
there,
don't
the
have to
less
do
I-
it.
No,
You don't have to do
I
it.
know, but that was just
Okay.
funny.
Okay.
It's just not comedy. But thank you for.
Sing us a song, mommy.
I don't think you want that. But, and I don't even have any jokes to tell you. Anybody have any good jokes? Bad jokes? Mediocre? No. See, do I even have a good story to tell? I'm empty. Empty of good stories. I usually have a good story, but I don't know. I tried to use my ATM card today and it worked. That's a good story.
Does it often not work?
I never use it.
Oh,
I never ever use it.
You remembered your password?
I remembered my password and because I want to bring it to Europe because it's better than going to the money
Yes.
changes, which we didn't do
Yes.
last time.
How do you get cash then? I'm just curious, like without an ATM?
I just go like this.
Or-
That's what happens when you run a cash business.
Oh, right, there's cash.
There's
right.
cash.
The
Yeah.
exchange is fine there, but it's the airport that is screwing.
Yeah, it's just
Yes,
a matter of like
exactly,
going
getting your
there and
spending,
finding it and, yeah. We went to one last time and Warren just threw his credit card and the guy's like, we don't do that here. I'm like, are you kidding? You know how much that's gonna cost us?
There's a lot of Apple Pay in Europe, a lot.
We're not Apple
Yeah.
people. Oh, actually Warren
I
is.
was thinking, yeah, but.
He said to me the other day, I hope some of you will find this kind of funny because I thought it was freaking hysterical. He said, apparently there's something called an eSIM. No, we don't think that's funny. Okay, I mean, you're the youngest one here. You should do like, everything's an eSIM.
Okay, that was the joke.
That was a joke, right? I'm looking at him
I was
like, what?
like-
Apparently there's something called a cell phone. That's what I was like, you know, saying that to me. And what he missed is last time we were in Europe, me trying to get an eSIM on my phone, sleep deprived, coffee deprived, and I'm like, no, we can't go yet. I'm trying to get this eSIM. And then when he said that to me a couple of days ago, I'm like, what? Well, thanks for telling me that. I didn't say that. I just burst out laughing. And then he got it. How are your legs? Good. Okay, come up a little bit.
When are you leaving? Tell us.
When am I leaving?
Yes, for your trip.
I'm leaving for Portugal next Wednesday.
Next
from
week,
today.
okay.
Yeah,
I thought maybe.
but I'm leaving for Vermont tomorrow morning. I'm gonna go learn more about fascia. So I have new ways of torturing everybody. Everybody breathing? Oh, that. Okay, come up a little bit more. Good. It's always, the women are always so stoic when doing these. The men are always like whining and complaining. Are we done yet? Are we done yet? It's amazing. It always amazes me. Focusing. Well, you're women. All right, let's come on up. Fold over and touch the ground. Have your knees a little bit bent. Let your head drop. Take a few deep inhales here. And exhale. Okay, now I'm gonna have you lay down on your mat and I want to spend just a little bit of time tremoring on the ground. just a little bit. So you're gonna do the bridge, butterfly bridge pose. If you need it, if you don't need it, just go right into tremoring. If you're still in the bridge pose and you feel like the tremors are somewhat caught, they've caught on, your body's caught on, go ahead and take your hips down. And just let your body tremor a little bit with your legs coming a little closer together. So another way you can use tremoring on an airplane, and don't know if I said this before, but Dr. Briselli used to say he would just tremor on an airplane so people wouldn't talk to him. Kind of like the accidental tourist had always had that same paperback novel in his bag so he can read it, so he didn't have to talk to people. Jennifer, take your knees a little closer together. Everybody take a deep breath in and exhale. Okay, and then let's drop the legs open or straight. And let's see. You're gonna come up into the chair and I'm gonna just put a block by everybody just in case you might want it. And I'll tell you why in a moment. So come on up, sit in your chair. And then what you're gonna do is you're gonna slide forward a little bit so you're not leaning against the chair. And some of you may, if you already feel like you're a little bit like this, then just follow it. A little tremoring in your legs. You might just want to shake your legs a little bit to just remind them and see if they catch. And if they don't, oh, I don't have a head. If they don't, what you can do is take that block between your knees and just squeeze it a little bit. So squeezing of the block is kind of like when we're taking our legs together, right? You should feel your inner thighs engaging. And if you feel like this swaying, like you've got going, you can try taking the block down and seeing if it will catch. Yeah, that's all right. And if it feels like something is like hindering it, slide forward more on your chair because you don't necessarily want the chair seat to hold your thighs still. And you can close your eyes or keep them open. And just imagine those tremors that are starting in your legs, maybe a sway, maybe a tremor, starting to move up your spine. And you can do that either just by visualizing it, or maybe you put a hand to your chest or your belly and use that as an invitation for the tremors to come up. Now, some people do find if they put their hands on their body, actually stops the tremor. So if that's you, then just drop your hand again. And if you do feel like, oh, my shoulders kind of want to go, but I'm holding them back, just shake them a little bit. Everybody take a deep inhale and exhale. And just notice what you're feeling, what's going on, what your experience is in this upward position. We're gonna, in a moment, we're gonna come into a rest. Just remember, as we do when we're tremoring laying down, where your feet are, where your knees are, and then go ahead and let yourself drop back into the chair seat, maybe straighten your legs out, or just tell yourself to stop tremoring. And then once you feel your body's not tremoring anymore, sit any way that you want to. You may be comfortable where you are. How'd that go? Gentle. Did anybody get tremors up their body?
Yeah, it was.
And you had like a rock, right? Sway. Did that feel okay?
Yeah. I think that happens like when I'm laying down.
Yeah. Mhm.
Seems to settle there or something.
You had teenage.
The official
Which
term.
always feels so good.
Yeah.
Actually, it really does feel good to let your legs shake like that.
Yeah.
How'd it go, Cindy?
It went good. Yeah, I got them, up my spine and up my shoulders, and yeah, they felt pretty even between the bottom and the top. Like I wasn't like going wild in any one place, and I liked having the shoulders free.
Okay.
I've been tremoring this week, and when I'm laying on the floor, I've been going up into a bridge, but a very low bridge because I wanted my sacrum to be free. But what I notice is my sacrum stayed still because I guess my glutes are activated. But what happened, the tremors moved right up to the shoulders.
Ah, okay.
When I was in that position, that's the way it felt again tonight. Like it was right up into my shoulders more than anywhere else.
I guess it kind of wants to be in your shoulders right now.
I guess so. Yeah.
Okay, we are gonna do it again, but I wanted to hear feedback. Trish, would you mind if I demonstrate something? Okay, can you bring your chair over here? Yeah, and you guys might want to come over here. Just go ahead and start tremoring like you were doing before. So, and this is something I noticed about Trish, and she actually asked me about it once when she was laying down, is that her legs have a lot of movement, where she mentioned something about the flapping one time before. And her upper body is relatively still, and we're gonna see if there's enough charge. And I'm just gonna put my hands on the sides of her knees a little bit to restrict the movement, and look what happens to her upper body. So it's kind of like, the guys who make the clowns who make the animal shapes out of the little long balloons, and you force the air into one place, and that's what we're doing with the tremor. So if I restrict her legs, her upper body starts to move more. So we just took the charge that was here and pushed it up.
I was wondering, even when I mild ones, that it wasn't going up, but
Feel like a sway.
Mhm. And another thing, and it's something you might want to do, and you might have noticed that Lee was using sandbags, sometimes putting something on your feet, and we can see it's kind of changing what's happening.
Feels like.
Yes, you do.
It's having tremor envy. It's nice.
Yeah, now you see it's kind of going into our diaphragms, this kind of jumping here, this in the diaphragm. I'm gonna take this away.
Knowing that about me.
So something that you can do at home, and this is whether you're sitting or if you're laying down, and you feel like there's this big motion with your legs, is that you can take something and put it between your legs and hold it. You can, some people use like a bathrobe tie to hold their legs together. That you only need to do that once or twice. And then you'll say, okay, move up, right? You don't need to be so artificial. I've not seen anybody that hasn't gotten that. And after 2 or 3 times of getting that, never knows how to get there themselves. We believe it, but it's not true. You just have to say, okay, now it's going up. And so you can even restrict your feet like this. You can restrict your feet by stretching your legs out, right? What does that give you when you stretch your legs out?
Well, I did it now just to stop, really.
When you were laying down before?
Oh, when I was laying
Yeah,
down.
you started with your legs straightened out.
I don't know. I guess I
Mhm.
wanted it to be more of the whole body.
Exactly. So when Ellie started tremoring a long time ago, you were having like big movements, right, in your legs, and it's just too much. So I asked her to at one time straighten out one leg, straighten out the other leg, and she found for herself that straightening out both legs brought everything up. Mhm.
So I found sitting in a chair made some of these big movements, which seemed useful. But I get this like hip flexion fatigue, this. I feel like the princess in the peaks when I'm laying on my back. I'm whining that you said complaint, so I'm whining that my lower back is arched, so that's hard. And then I'm in the chair, and while I got the movements and the flexion, it's really about, I guess, compromise and balancing it out, but when one part's tense, it's hard to just,
Well, you could do something very simple, like if you were sitting on a couch, you can kind of lean back.
yeah, I found myself going this way, like over just to do this.
And also, and then when you're on your back, you can put your hips on a blanket or a bolster, and that will probably take the uncomfortable arch out of your back, right? And then also, sometimes the tremoring, sometimes the fatigue in certain muscles is important. Now, you often say, if we're doing something that's long, I ask you to bring your knee up, say, I can't.
Oh, like my left knee.
Like my hip flexors aren't working, but now you're saying you're feeling your hip flexors a lot. So it might be a way that it's waking up your hip flexors.
It's like sore because we did have to lift our left knee, and it still hurts a little bit, even though I didn't keep doing what we, wasn't doing.
Yeah, but I'm not talking about what we did in class. I'm talking about, I was just bringing up something that happened in class to compare
Right.
to say, well, maybe what you're doing in tremoring is you're exploring the movements that you're unable to complete when your frontal cortex is involved. And that, I would say that is true for a lot of tremoring experiences. Not that we're doing anything like fabulously out of, although I will say I have seen some people do some extraordinary things that there's no way they would do that if I just said, could you do this? And they'd be like, first of all, why? Second of all, no, I can't. I find that more with the fascial release, like people will go into really deep back bends or really strong twists and they say, and they say, you're doing this to me, you're moving my body like this, but I'm not. I mean, usually it's somebody much bigger than me. So it's not like I'm forcing the body, their body is doing it. And what's happening is, and in tremoring also, is that your body is moving into a position it needs to move into. Whether it needs to move into to release a muscle or release a memory. I don't know, the person will know at some point why their body may be moving into those positions. And so if you're feeling that the hip flexion is loud, it might be because it's stimulating your hip flexors, but you often complain you can't feel and you can't work and you can't engage. But here they're engaging. And when you say, well, it feels like tension, maybe it's strength. Maybe it's the hip flexors engaging. So if you can't feel the hip flexors engage, when I say engage your hip flexors, how do you know it's tension and not engagement? That's a rhetorical question. Don't answer it. Just consider
I
it.
may as well.
Yeah, I know. I've met you
What
before.
about trying to tremor into those places? That's what I usually do. It's like if there's some area that's really tight.
Yeah, you
try
can
to
do that.
direct the tremoring
Mhm.
into that spot.
You can do that.
To
Yeah.
get release.
It may or may not work.
Yeah.
But it'll give you something. It's
Right.
gonna wake up something. Like if you have this sense, especially people who've tremored a lot like you have this sense that if only this place would tremor a little bit, something would release.
Right.
You
Right.
can, so this is what those of you who are new are hearing, like a foreshadowing. You can say, oh, I need to tremor here, and it will go there.
Right.
Now, we want to be careful with that we don't always do that, because sometimes we're wrong. But certainly if you're like, oh man, it hurts. I mean, yeah, I was doing that when my wrist was broken. I was doing that I was trying all these different ways to get my knee to tremor so that it would heal quicker. So we definitely can use the tremors like that too. That's a different kind of pasta. Fusilli.
Lasagna, I think.
Lasagna,
It's really
yeah, that's right. Slather on that sauce and cheese.
Put the sandbags on my thighs, offer a little space in my lower back. I could use like 3 on each side, but it helps.
Mhm.
I do like tremoring on my side. I always feel a little weird, but I like it.
Yeah, once you get comfortable with it, you'll find that you can move into different positions, and everybody's body is telling a story. And so we don't often know the story ourselves, even though we were probably there in some capacity when the story was written, but that doesn't mean that we remember it. So our body is trying to do something, and like I said, it may not be something that you would do necessarily in your conscious mind. But that's kind of like dancing too, isn't it? Like this freestyle dance that we do these days in the discos.
Wait, speak for
If
yourself.
we really let the music take us, we're not really thinking about, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. There's a place for that, a very beautiful place for that. There's a place for choreography, and there's a place for just letting your body move and express itself freely. That moves, asana is like that too. You go to a yoga class and the teacher says, do this, do this, do this, do this. But when you're really doing your own practice, you're just doing whatever comes to you. You're just flowing, and it doesn't even have to be the same from the right side to the left side. You're just letting it flow. Okay, should we try the chair again? All right, up you go. So you might be able to just jump right in, let your body tremor.
We need the block or we don't need the block?
If you don't need the block, don't use the block. You
Okay,
probably don't need the block.
thank you. Sorry about my camera, it's not working.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
So if you feel like you're getting a lot of movement in your legs and you want it to move up, Start to draw your knees together a little bit and bump your feet out wider. See, you don't need to take my hands home with you. Mhm. Remember swaying and rocking is part of this too. Even though we call it tremoring, doesn't mean that you have to be vibrating at a certain frequency. You can try this on different surfaces. You can try it on the couch. Try it in the passenger seat of the car. I find it very useful in the passenger seat of the car.
Trevor before I took my child practice driving over the weekend. It's definitely made a difference.
Before you got in the car.
Yeah.
Yeah, now you'll be able to do it in the car too. Just tell your child what's happening. Mom's just taking care of herself. My kids know I'm just a nervous passenger, so they don't take it personally at this age. Maybe they did when they were younger, that's why I let their father teach them how to drive. That's great, it's gonna tremor right out of my skin. So if you're sitting away from the chair, you can try leaning back and see if that makes a difference. If you're leaning back, you can try sitting up and see if that makes a difference. And yes, we do when we're laying down, rest when you want to. Exhale out through your mouth when you want to. If we're gonna come into rest, you can either rest in the chair or lay down on your mat. All right, let's start to deepen the breath. Start to waken your body slowly. Roll to the side. Take your time.
Oh.
And when you're ready, come up to sit. Hey, how'd that go? Warmed me up. Okay.
It's funny, I'm feeling. It felt like undulating dance, but I could feel at my sacrum of my lower spine, more of the trembling vibrations. Just-
It can change, and it will. Yeah.
Like I noticed when I brought my legs closer together, sort of, so I can like started at my legs and kind of like moved to my hips and then my shoulder, and then it went legs, hips, shoulder.
Head, Nice. And that's fun to watch, right?
Yeah.
And it's just like, oh, what's gonna happen now? Yeah.
Friday night entertainment.
Tune
Tune in this Friday night. See what Gemma's gonna say.
Yeah, it'll change. I remember having a time in my tremoring when I was laying on my back and I would be hitting my sacrum against the ground. It'd just be lifting up and banging down like dun, 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 dun. And it felt so good. I mean, I was on like a blanket, you know, I wasn't on a hard floor. I was like, wow, this is amazing. How long is this gonna go on? You know, and I was like, wow, I don't know. And you know, that was like a period of a couple of months and then it's gone.
Sometimes I'll shake my head really hard, get back and forth with hard. It just happens.
Are we all blissful, kind of? Yeah, okay, good. So all I'd say is just keep experimenting, you know, I would say if you can tremor in a chair, you can tremor anywhere. Oh, I made a run. So just keep experimenting and know that when you do it at home, it might be different. So if you do wanna experiment with the chair and it's not working, then lay down on the ground, just like we did, do the wall squat, lay on the ground, do the butterfly bridge, and then tremor a little bit and then transfer to the chair. It may have to be delicate like that for a little while. I don't think forever, but at least for a little while until your body goes, oh, yeah, I can do this. I have a student who tremors in a rocking chair. So, yeah, there's this forward motion, there's this side motion, you know, she's got everything going all over.
Just imagining it's making me tremor.
What about in water?
You can absolutely tremor in water, yeah. Get yourself a couple of noodles, one under your arms, one under your legs, and let yourself tremor. Hot tub, you can do that too, if you have access to one, but you can absolutely tremor in water. It's really quite wonderful because, you know, it really, you're being held and your tremors are gonna be somewhat muted, but that's okay. Yeah, you're not frothing the place up. Well, probably not. Yeah. We had, at one time, we had a Facebook page that people were posting, the providers were posting all the bizarre ways that they were tremoring, like all the different positions. And I will say that one time I was in this advanced training and there was a woman there who'd been tremoring for years. And our assignment was to work with one other person and watch them tremor for an hour and make suggestions. And I said, why don't you try straightening out your leg? And she's like, what? I can do that? I said, well, try it, see what happens. And she straightened out her leg, and of course the pattern changed. And then we had her, she switched it. But what was really striking to me is that this woman was tremoring for so long and teaching tremoring, and she didn't realize she can change her body position. So really, this practice is completely yours, you know. You are allowed to, it's your body, you're allowed to move it how you want to. Don't, you know, I want you to think out of the box. It doesn't have to be, I'm on my back and my legs are going like this. I mean, in retrospect, I think that was probably a trauma response on her part, was like, I'm just gonna do what you tell me to do. But you should know also that you can play around with props like the sandbags, like I said. Cindy, I'm sure if she had one of those round pillow things that we have here, the squishy things, you have one?
Yep.
Yeah, that would
do.
be really nice under the sacrum or under your feet even, like especially sometimes I've tremored and my feet are just going like this, up and down and up and down and up and down. And I will say this, and I haven't seen anybody do it here, but I have seen it before. And actually it's a woman who tremors in the rocking chair, that if you get a lot of this kind of movement, this, like this, like you're doing crunches, and you're like, I don't want to do crunches now. That's a good sign that you should try sitting up. Because that's almost, it could be your body's pulling you into an upright position. Just like if you were to tremor with one leg up and your leg is pulling like this, it might be pulling you over, so you can tremor over like this. So if you develop these, what seems like a bizarre pattern that also seems really strong, follow it and see what it says. That's what I do as a provider. If I'm watching somebody tremor and I see something like that, I'll just take one finger and kind of roll them over. And then usually something else happens. Or I'll take my 2 fingers to the back of their head and just apply a little pressure and they'll sit up. So if you notice something like that happening in your own body, it is giving you a signal. It's saying, let's change this. Let's move around a little bit. It's definitely not all I have to say, that's all I have to say tonight. So play around with it. Yeah.
Sorry, I had 2 questions. Maybe the first one, I know I start tremoring with my weak side, like the left leg is the one that starts tremoring first. Is that I want to say normal or something, or is the pattern? And the other one is that you mentioned tremoring for like you when you were injured in the knee. Does tremoring bring more, maybe some healing, some like circulation to the area? How does tremoring has helped with
Yeah,
that?
it's kind of like you know, they have the acupuncturists will put probes on you and there's a pulse, or chiropractors do that. I don't know what they call it. There's,
It's not like.
it's
Oh,
not
like the little needles? Or
not to give the
the
needle.
electrodes? Oh, the
Yes, it's a stem. They'll stimulate with electrical pulses on an area of injury, and a cat, as you know, Paulina, because you have so many, might come and sit on you and purr.
Yeah.
Great, if they know you're not feeling well.
Yes, they
They
do.
might come and do that. So yeah, tremoring is gonna shake things up and agitate the area, but not agitate in a bad way, like a washing machine agitates your clothes so they get clean, right? Shaking things up a little bit. So you're bringing more circulation, you're bringing more lymph, you're bringing some movement. A lot of our injuries linger because the fascia glues together, and that's really hard to then address. I'm not saying like if you have a fresh injury, you should tremor into it. I mean, sometimes I do, but I wouldn't take somebody, you know,
Oh, yeah.
somebody who came in and said, let's tremor that out. especially if I don't know what the injury was, but
Mhm.
before it sets in, before it really constricts the area, it's good to tremor it and train the tissue that it's okay to stay soft. If it is, and that's why I'm saying it's not always appropriate, because sometimes it's not okay for the tissues to stay soft, right? But I also don't want to completely question the body's intelligence, right? But this, what I always say, my wrist broke here, but when they took the splint off, this is where I had to develop movement again in the joint. The place that it broke was fine, but
Mhm.
this is where what I would call the injury of immobilization took on, was here. So when I knew that the bone was set, I tremor a little bit like this, just to keep some movement in my wrist.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
And then the first question, I'm not sure. I think that's really interesting that your weak leg tremors first, and just keep watching that. And anybody notices that, also it'd be interesting to see.
Mhm.
Yeah, I
Thank
never
you.
even thought about which my leg tremors first. So
Mm.
I'll look into that.
Thanks.
You're welcome. All right. Well, you will have this recording, and you'll have all the other recordings if you need them, and just keep tremoring. I often will follow this up with a 4-week advanced seminar, which, it's mostly advanced because we don't have to start from the beginning. And we can use some props and things like that. So just pay attention, look out for that if it's something you're interested in. And then I often do some retreats, so you're trimming every day.
All day.
All day, every day. And that, of course, is its own thing. Yeah. All right. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you. Take care, Bonnie.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.